You're listening to the Reinvest Podcast, where each Tuesday we show business owners and entrepreneurs how to diversify into real estate by equipping you with the tools and tactics to build generational wealth. Your hosts, Garrett Gatton and Seth Ciminillo.
All right, welcome to another week of the Reinvest Podcast. We are missing co-host today, Garrett. We're going to give him a pass. He is taking his daughter out for her birthday, so we can all give him a pat on the back for that. It's important. We were just talking with our guests. I mean, family is important, and being willing to put business on the back burner for your family is never a bad thing. And it's easy when you're in the business environment, in real estate, and you're trying to do deals, and you're trying to grind, and there's that hustle culture. It's easy to push off your family with the lie, believing that when I hit that success, then they'll understand my sacrifice, or then I'll spend time with them. And too often we do that over and over again until we've missed those years and missed those times. So just a little plug for everybody out there. Spend time with your family. Well, today we got a great episode planned. We have Cody Hofhine with us today. Cody, how are you doing?
Not too bad, my friend. Excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to dig into your story. Cody has done multiple things. I'm not even sure exactly everything, but we'll get into it in his story. He's done some insurance, some wholesaling, and he has some other businesses that we'll probably dig into. And so I'm just going to, before we get digging into all that, who is Cody? Where are you from? Where did you grow up? And how'd you stumble your way into real estate and some adjacent businesses?
Love that. It's a great question. Yeah. So my name's Cody Hofhine. I'm originally from just a town out of Salt Lake called Murray. That's where I grew up my whole life, and then kind of stayed around in that area. So I've always been in the Salt Lake area till just recently moved down to St. George, Utah to get away from all the cold and get into that beautiful sun. So we're down here loving it. We've been down here a couple years now. What got me into the real estate space was really, it was back in 2010. 2010, I was at a crucial point, I should say 2009, end of 2009. I was working for my dad. I was doing construction my whole life. I'm a general contractor myself. And so I'm working there, me, my dad, my brother. And 2009 is finally when Utah started to feel the pinch of the '08 recession, where a lot of the states around us, they were feeling it in '08 really, really heavy. '09, finally Utah starts to feel that recession come in. So I went and got a job during that time because my dad was willing to pay me. Him and my mom were willing to pay me and my brother. And I'm like, dude, I can't take money from your account. Like, there's no work. So I went and got a sales job selling vinyl fencing of all things. And
Really?
dude, it was awful. Well, it was great because I had a job. So I have to say, with gratitude, it was great. It was but how you had to work it was so rough. I would be gone at like 7 a.m. to drive to my territory, sell all day, not get home till like 7 p.m. for like 7 months of the year. So my boy was 2 years old at the time, my wife pregnant. I would be gone before my boy was up, and I'd be home after he was in bed.
So how old were you at this time?
2010. So that would have been 16 years ago. So today I'm 42. So what is that? 26?
Something like
right?
that.
So
Yeah.
26 years old.
So back up real quick. So the construction business, that was your dad's business.
That was.
Was it residential construction, commercial construction? What were you guys doing?
Commercial. There's
really?
big
Okay.
furniture company out here called RC Willey. It was owned by a guy by the name of Bill Child. And then Warren Buffett bought it in 98. And then we started expanding, and we would go out and build these RC Willey furniture companies all over the place. So we were building them in Boise, Idaho. Then we built 2 of them in Vegas. We built 1 in Reno, 1 in Sacramento. And so I'd be gone for 6 months of the year with my dad, and we'd just be him and his crew, and me and my brother would be building these big, massive commercial buildings.
So is that what you jumped into right out of high school?
Yeah, I was, right out of high school. I think a lot of culture in Utah, what we do is with the LDS culture. I served 2 years. I was a missionary
you did.
for the church. Yeah, and I was there in Honduras for 2 years. So got to learn Spanish and serve the gospel out there. And serve the
but what
people
an
out in Honduras.
Experience, right? I mean, that's
Incredible experience.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't get that, don't travel, don't go anywhere, don't do anything, right? And so, especially in like a servitude position like that, I mean, you're just it's a whole different ball game. And I think so. I did full-time ministry after high school for
Mhm.
5 years, and you aren't working per se. I mean, you're working, but you're not getting paid to do anything necessarily.
That's
But
right.
it's just like it's the missional aspect of it. And I look back on that period of my life now, and a lot of what you do as a business owner and entrepreneur is delayed gratification. And so a lot of times it feels like you're working for free. And to me, I'm like, this is like I'm just serving people still. And you're just like
So
out
true.
there, you're just out there doing it. And it's like I didn't get paid for years doing
Yeah.
that stuff, and I'm not getting paid
Yeah.
now. Hopefully I'm doing it to get paid at some point, but that weird skill of delayed gratification within business and within working and not having to like, I need a paycheck this week, or I won't be able to survive. And obviously it takes some time to get to that point, but now that's cool. Okay, so you got out of high school, you served for 2 years, you joined up with your dad's company. Sounds like that was a popping company there for a while.
Yeah.
Recession hits, work dries up naturally. People aren't expanding with a, national recession going on. You jump into sales with a fencing company. So where'd you go from there? That's sales with a fencing company is exciting and all, but what'd you do?
Yeah, this goes back to this. You started the episode great. Like, how can you do something in life where you're also able to still enjoy what's most important? Like, I personally don't believe it's like, oh, once I'm 50, I finally earned the right to hang out with my family. Like, no,
Right.
I'm hanging out with my family along the whole entire way.
Yeah.
So that's never sat well with me. So those 5 days every single week that I wouldn't see my boy, it ate me up. It just tore me up. So what happens is when we act, at least for me in my life, this is how it worked for me. As we act, we basically are acting upon the things that we can see right in front of us. We rarely see the whole path of how it looks. I believe in a God that really is plugged into the details of our lives. But I had enough light to go get that job, but I didn't know what it would lead to. But as you act, you simply get your next piece of light that allows you to just step into what's coming. And I happen to be selling vinyl fencing to a bunch of insurance agents, and they'd say like, "Why are you selling vinyl fencing? Like of all things, like you'll sell me one fence. You said it lasts for 30 years. Like this is a one and done like sales opportunity." I'm
Right.
like, okay. And they're like, "Why not do insurance?" And so I'm like, "Well, tell me about insurance. What does that look like?" And I ended up starting my insurance agency from scratch at the end of 2010 and built that up until, and I'll kind of fast forward that, I exited that in 2017.
So
But
just forgive my ignorance on
yes,
insurance
plug in.
companies. Yeah. When you say you started from scratch, what does that mean exactly? So I mean, like there's
so
State
brutal.
Farm, right? So that's
Yep.
going through State Farm. You get plugged in as an agent, get licensed.
Yep.
You get your territory or whatever wherever you're going to be at. That wasn't what you did. You did what is
This
what
is
is the other option?
independent. So I
Okay.
would represent many companies, and I had learned from many people like don't go like just a solo, like a captive agent is what they call it. Don't go with Allstate or State Farm or Farmers. Like do where you can represent many companies so you have the best options for everyone's situations. So I get into that. What I didn't know is that I'd be working like 60 hours a week.
Yeah,
and
right.
Then, and then at the end of the year, have 19 grand my first
Yeah.
year of insurance. Like
Nice.
it's brutal.
Yeah.
It's a game of stacking BBs. And it's like the long haul, maybe it'll turn into something, but I'm like, I also don't believe in this philosophy that you're supposed to stack wealth and finally you'll taste wealth at 60 years old either. Like I don't buy into that either. I think that
Yeah.
is to each their own. If they want to do that, that's fine. I believe you can have wealth right now. And so that didn't sit well with me. But along the way, because I took action, I was insuring a lot of real estate investors just in the state of Utah. What's so crazy, Seth, and you're going to be like, maybe you've had this experience, maybe not. I was going to a local real estate investor association it was from 2011. I joined the Salt Lake Real Estate Investor Association. I never went there to learn about real estate. In my head,
You
I
had
had this
your
thought come to
insurance
me.
hat on.
Bro, that's all it was. I literally
Yeah.
had this thought come to my head say, hey, go insure real estate investors. They have money, they have big houses, they have nice cars, they have rentals. Like this would be awesome. So I go there and I get passed around. I'm insuring all the big players in the state of Utah. I probably insured more investors in the state of Utah than probably any other agent in the
Wow.
whole state. So it grew really quick and they started passing me around. But what's crazy is I never listened to them. They would get up every month and say how I just did this, or I just did this, or I just acquired my 8th rental. And then all of a sudden the guy would get up next month. He's like, now instead of 8, I have 15. And I'm like, well, that's awesome. that's another 7 policies. I need to talk to
Yeah.
him and go insure
Yeah.
those 7
Right.
policies. Like, it's just crazy. Something happened in 2015 that I call a gift. And most people would call maybe, oh man, maybe I'm not meant for this. Maybe I'm not supposed to be an entrepreneur. Maybe God doesn't love me. And I never looked through the lens that way. I've always looked at it as, man, this really was a gift. I come home early because I usually come home about 5. I come home at 2. I walk in the kitchen and my wife's crying at the table. She didn't think I'd be home till 5. So I just simply put my arms around her, said, what's going on? She looks up and she's like, this month's rough. Like, do we put money on towards food to feed our kids tonight, which we had 4 at this time, at this point, or do we pay for the mortgage? And I'm like, is it that bad? She's like, Cody, it's that bad. So 3 days later, I'm at that same real estate investor association, different ears, different eyes, just a whole different experience because of what I just witnessed from my wife. So I'm there and this guy stands up and he says, hey, I just found this deal. I ended up assigning my rights to it. It's called wholesaling. And I made $34,000 and I did it in 3 days. And I'm like, that would put food on the table.
Yeah. Yeah. You
would pay a mortgage.
Yeah.
Like, this would be great. So I went up and asked him and I insured all of them. So I trusted him. Like, I knew he was.
You knew he was actually doing business.
Where this happens in the real estate space.
Yep.
And this was not the guy. This guy was a humble, like, you could trust every word he was saying. So I said, hey, do you mind teaching me this? And he says, Cody, you're one of the most driven people I've ever met in my life. If I teach you, I'm literally teaching my biggest competitor. Like, I know you will just blow this up in Utah. And so I'm like, okay, I think
you're thank you, I guess. But
yeah,
also,
like maybe
where's the abundance mindset at?
Right. And if I had my other hat on, so this one says surrender. My other hat says abundance. Those are the 2 words I have. I love those words. So I end up going online and finding a mentor, and I paid $5,000 on a credit card that I had to order the credit card because I had no money. But I believed in the process because I believed that guy. And I'm like, and if he can do it, I'm going to do it. Like, I'll figure it out. I will put my back. I perform when my back's against the wall. So 39 days later, I do my first deal. It pays us $24,000. And I'm like, holy crap. Like, it worked. Like, this is it. Fast forward, the first 6 months, I do over $500,000. First year, I do 1.3 million. And I'm like,
so this is 2015, 2016 still?
Correct. Okay. Yep. So May of 2015 to 2016, and that in May of 2016, in that first year, I do over $1 million, and I'm like, this is pretty cool. Like,
yeah, you're like, this actually worked. I don't know if insurance is all it's cracked up to be now.
Yeah, game on. So I keep owning the insurance agency, but I'm obviously putting more of my focus over here because it is changing lives quickly. So sell that in 2017. My mentor that taught me how to wholesale, he's like, dude, the student is now the master. What the heck are you doing? Like, you're outpacing me. What are the things you're doing? I'm like, well, I really love sales. And so I've figured out these different ways and different strategies and different techniques. I really love marketing. So we figured out new ways to get more responses. He's like, hey, I ended up buying half his coaching company. It was still a small company at this time in 2016, but he didn't have a sales floor. And I'm like, bro, I'll run the sales floor. Like, this is my jam. This is what I love to do. So we end up building a coaching program. It's called Wholesaling Inc. We ended up building that up. It was the #1 wholesaling platform in the nation. There was really only one program out there besides that, which was Sean Terry, which was like the OG. And we ended up surpassing him. We ended up having a #1 podcast in the nation in the real estate space, #2 in the business category. We beat Tony Robbins. I'm like, this is phenomenal. The one we couldn't beat was freaking Dave Ramsey. That guy has #1 on lockdown, like just lockdown. So, so fast forward, I sold that in 2020. And
so
then
real quick before we move on from wholesaling.
Yeah.
So I'm a real estate. So some context, I'm a real estate agent. I'm an investor. So like locally we run a real estate team, commercial, residential. And then me and my business partner have an investment company, Reinvest Capital. And we do some different things in there. We do some mobile home parks, multifamily, but then locally we'll also do some flips and some stuff like that.
Yep.
Some wholesale type deals. So we buy deals from wholesalers. I'm not opposed to wholesalers. But there's a lot of talk and a lot of like bad perceptions of wholesalers because there are a lot of bad actors out there.
For sure.
So like sometimes I feel like can you speak to like maybe the ethics of wholesaling. I mean, some people feel like it's not ethical because it's like, hey, if you would just sell that house on market with an agent, you're probably going to make more money. And so, like, as you got into the space and as you really started to become successful, I mean, what was kind of your philosophy, or how did you combat some of that as you were growing? I'm sure that came up a lot of times as you were interacting with people.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of what I found out to be true for me, at least, is the homes that I'm either purchasing or wholesaling, they're really not even the same category as what a real estate agent would come in and list. I mean, we're buying some some scary ones.
Right.
Like, we're buying the homes that have meth in them. We're buying the homes that have mold. We're buying the ones that have to close within 5 days, 6 days, 7 days, where a traditional selling of the home isn't going to work. It's not going to be the strategy they need. And so the real truth comes down to, because there's so many bad actors in this space, and I would maybe say there's probably bad actors in every space in any industry out there, but wholesaling does get a rap because there's so many bad actors. They go on
Yeah.
YouTube University, they think they're amazing, and really what they do is they make it transactional versus relational,
Yeah.
and that's just not our forte. In fact, we've scaled and built a franchise model called Joe Homebuyer around this, where we have to go by abiding by the regulations, the rules, because it's a franchise. But it really is serving people at the highest level, and you have to have that front of sight, front of mind in every transaction. This is not a transaction business where I'm going in there and I'm just all I care about is the deal. It really is going in there and saying, hey, you've got a sticky situation, and we're kind of looking at it theoretically,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm sitting next to them instead of across from them, and we're looking at the house and we're coming up with solutions. And
Yeah.
not all the time am I the solution or our team is the solution. Sometimes it is best for them to actually just list it and go full retail for that. And so we really have to put them front of sight, front of mind. It shouldn't be anything like used car salesman, and that's another industry that probably gets
Right.
plagued with
Yeah.
crap. It's just, you have to serve people. That's our whole responsibility, is to make sure they're in a better position when they do business with us. And that's how we've always made our business work. And I think that's why it continues to work. We have probably more 5-star reviews than anyone in the nation. And it's because we love people dearly, and the deal comes second.
How do you guys handle, 'cause I guess my biggest problem with some wholesalers, not all wholesalers, like I work with a wholesaler who just buys it and he won't even start marketing until he has purchased it.
Owns it.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so that was his
Yeah.
strategy. And he was just like, it's easier that way. It's cleaner. Like I don't have to worry about anything. I'm doing it, it's all on the up and up.
Yep.
And so that's cool. There's another wholesaler who, will try to assign contracts. And so my biggest problem is when wholesalers assign contracts, but the sellers don't understand that they're probably not the end buyer. And then
Yeah.
when that contract lapses after 30 days, that seller had planned, like, this is going to close in 30 days because I'm trusting whatever this guy's telling me.
That's right.
And so, I mean, how did you guys handle that? Would you guys assign contracts? And if you did, if that contract lapsed, would you still purchase it? Or what was kind of the plan moving forward, or the communication?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's part of all the ethics that you're talking about that makes so much sense and is necessary for everyone to be following. So if you're a wholesaler listening to this right now, please, if this is not your process, change it to this process. First and foremost, we tell them up front, we may buy this, but we may not be the end buyer on this. We have
Mm-hmm.
plenty of contacts that we're connected with. We have contractors we'll partner with. We have other investors that we might just assign this to. It's called wholesaling, and it's built into our contract. We go over it 2 or 3 times specifically in the contract that we may not be the end buyer. Now, because I am an investor and because I am an end buyer on, I would say, at least 20-25% of the deals that we put under contract, then yes, there are deals that we keep. There's deals that we fix and flip. There's deals that we keep as rentals.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say majority of them, we're either going to do, like you said, a wholesale where you just
Mm-hmm.
kind of just clean them up, don't do a full rehab, just put them back on the market. Or we'll just simply assign them. But the
Mm-hmm.
seller knows that. The other thing is, if we are going to opt into assignment, we will know within 5 days of putting that under contract if it can be done or can't be done. and they know up front. Now, the reason why 5 days, I don't want to go to 30 days. You're ruining people's lives if you're taking it for the full extent of the
Yeah.
contract. They're just thinking, I'm going to closing, money's going to be in
Right.
my bank. I get to move on to plan B. Oh my gosh, thank you guys. And then when it doesn't happen, it's devastating. There's people that go into foreclosure. There's devastating where people,
Right.
I mean, there's sad stories out there, and it does happen, and it just won't happen under our watch, because if for some reason we don't like the price, like, hey, we really need this, we'll say, hey, here's what we do. We have a big network at that price. I wouldn't be able to perform on it. I wouldn't be able to close on that deal, but we're connected to probably the biggest network of people that would possibly buy this.
Mm-hmm.
What I can tell you is I will let them know of this deal. Within 5 days of today, you will have an answer back. And if not, we can come back and either simply cancel, or we can come back and talk, what does the price look like after we get data from these 5 days of putting
After you
out
get
to
feedback, right?
Yeah. But we don't
That
go
makes
past
sense.
5 days. That's our process. Our process is a 5-day disposition if we're going to do assignment, for the fact of we're either coming back to either have that conversation saying, hey, we didn't think it was going to work. We tried our best, but they're not mad at us because they knew up front we were just going to go out there and try our best to try help them move the deal.
Do you see a lot of homeowners after that 5-day period, like come back around and say, okay, maybe I am overshooting with the value
There are,
right now?
yeah, not all of them, because all of them, some of them still have a high hope for their home and what they can get. And so at that
Right.
point we say, hey, we have like our listing agents, because I'm not an agent. In some states, you actually have to be an agent if you can even to do an assignment or to even do wholesaling. In Utah, you
Right.
still don't have to. So we just refer it out. We just refer it out to an
Yep.
agent that comes in and can list it for them and help them try and get full market for it. Other times they're like, yeah, this totally makes sense, but it's our approach, because we're
Right.
not mad and we're not trying to strong arm them into it and say, hey, here's what we have. This is what it looked like. If you want to go this route, here's what the new price would be. If not, here's an agent that you can use.
Yep.
And it really is a smooth process. It's not anything confrontational. They're never mad because up front they knew, hey, we're just going to try and throw a Hail Mary out here for you, and we'll know within 5 days.
Yeah. I don't want to spend too much time on wholesaling. It's just fresh on my mind. Ohio just passed more legislation around
Yep.
wholesalers specifically. So
Yep.
we've been talking about it a lot, thinking about it a lot. We work with a lot of wholesalers. And so really interesting. Thanks for sharing. Let's move back. So you bought into the coaching company. You guys scaled it, had the podcast rolling. What did you move into next?
So when we sold that in 2020, I was still wholesaling at the time. In 2018, we had a guy that was local here going to BYU that was like, hey, I think I could like do your PPC for you. And we're like, cool, let's do it. He's like, I need something that pays me a little bit of money while I'm going to college. He ends up crushing it for us. And so I approached him. I said, bro, why don't we turn this into a business? I'm connected to every large coach. I'm connected to all the like wholesalers in the nation. Like, let's go grow this thing.
Yeah.
And so that was another business activity where it brought on, and we
So
scaled this
weird.
thing to like,
How did this guy, why was he good at it? Like he just was a
you know what?
self-learner and
It's
just,
one of those, like, the word that comes to mind when I think of this guy is savant. Like,
okay.
like just one of those guys when you talk to, you're like, oh, he's different. Like,
Yeah,
he's
smarter
good.
than me.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
he's good. Like he's good. Yeah, he was smart. He was good.
Wow.
And so you just were like, yeah, let's try this. He was crushing it for us. And so we blew that up. I'd put him on big podcasts across the nation.
Yeah.
Some of them I'd fly out there and go on them with them. And then from there, in 2020, when we sold Wholesaling Inc., me and my business partner, Mark, started Joe Homebuyer, and we franchised it so that we could really go deep with our people instead of just teaching people how to do their first deal. That was fun, but there was very few that actually learned how to turn it into a business. And if it's not going to be a business, like,
yeah, the
okay,
systems
it's
are
not
where
that
it's at.
great.
Right.
Yes. You
So you
have
guys
to have a repeatable, scalable business.
So you guys would package these systems.
Yeah.
As a franchise. And so how'd that work? How did you guys do your franchise model? Did you have an ownership in it, or did they do a one-time fee to get the franchise model?
Yeah, so they pay an upfront territory fee, and then it's an ongoing royalty every month.
Yeah.
And then they're tied into us for the ongoing training, leadership, system updates, all the stuff that we're reinvesting back into the company to make it even better. Last year we surpassed 30 million. nationwide with all of our franchisees. It's been a great thing because we're growing with the right people. It's not just anyone comes in. Not everyone shouldn't work with everyone because that's just not, it's not a healthy thing. There's people you clearly don't want in your franchise. There's clearly people you don't want in your business. And we dodge those people. We don't want them in here. But when you grow with the right people, it turns into a man, the only word I can think of is a blessing. It ends up being this phenomenal culture that has this phenomenal core values, phenomenal community of great people, of just winners with a heart to just serve people at the highest level. And it makes this like winning just catapult pretty dang quick.
That's awesome. So any other businesses that you decided to spontaneously start in this journey, or was that kind of most of them?
That was most of them. And then we exited just a year and a half ago from that first PPC company.
Okay.
And then I consult one-on-one a lot of high level, I'd say between the 1 million and 10 million business owners. I have one that's past that, but I consult those individuals, and sometimes they'll come to me and say, hey, I would love to be part of this business. I don't do startups, but if something's proven, I just acquired another PPC company because we exited from the one, and now I just acquired another one. He's like, I want to do the same thing. Like, let's go. Yeah. And so things like that will happen just naturally with my conversations with my consulting clients.
So quite the journey over the last 10 to 15 years, pretty big hockey stick. It seems like, you were doing it for years with not much growth. You started accelerating. Why don't we talk about like, what does it take to be like a high level business owner at that level? And like even how do you hold these huge growing businesses? I mean, if you're doing $1 million a year in wholesaling, that's taking time, whether it's from you or building a team, and still like having a life with your family. Can we kind of get into that?
Sure. Yeah. I love that you're talking on this because very few do. First and foremost, I believe anyone can get to their first million by just using what I call the CAR method. C is you got to be consistent. And I think too many times we call people out like, oh, you're lazy. I don't think lazy is a word. I think even lazy people are consistent. They're just consistent at the habits that don't serve them. Like they're consistent at scrolling through social media. They're consistent at watching TV. So they're consistent individuals. They're not doing the habits that serve them. So you got to be consistent. The other ones, you got to be ambitious. You got to be the one that when you wake up, you're actually ready to fight versus, oh, it's Monday, I got to go back into the office. It's like you lack ambition. Yeah. Ambition is found through purpose and direction. So you got to really align yourself with a purpose that's bigger than you. For me and my wife, we loved helping that same 2-year mission that I served because it made such an impact and change in my life. When there's youth, it's paid for by us. Like the church doesn't pay for it. When youth want to go on those missions and they can't afford it, me and my wife, we fund those. We pay for those. It puts a purpose to us where when I wake up, I don't feel like I'm working. I feel like, oh my gosh, today's the day that I go do this so I can put more kids out on their missions. So ambition. And then the third one is you got to be relentless. You got to have if I was in your case, Seth, then maybe I could do this. Or if I was blessed like you, then maybe I was doing that. If God wanted me to do it, I'd probably do it. And then there's other people that say when the rates come down, finally my business is going to take off. Yeah. When this, and if quits, when hesitates, and we got to replace that word with until. Relentless people go until they succeed. So there's a book by Og Mandino. It's called The Greatest Salesman in the World. Scroll number 3 says, I will persist until I succeed. And that's the difference between those that are winning at a very high level and those that are mediocre or losing at a very high level. They just keep going until they succeed. They don't go until it's hard. They don't go until they've heard no 100 times. They go until they succeed. And that's the difference. And then once you get to that million stage, wanting to scale higher, that's when you need to start putting those systems in place, those processes in place. And you got to start surrounding yourself with a team. Rarely does a man's income exceed his level of personal development. That came from good old Jim Rohn.
Yeah.
And what that's saying is quit chasing money. Chase personal development and you'll attract money into your life. You'll attract A players into your life. You'll attract a big business into your life because you're personally doing the work to become the person that can actually manage a big business, that can actually manage big income, that can actually manage A players. and you have to do the work. You can't expect A players to work for C leaders. It just doesn't work, and it never will work.
There's another quote that me and my business partner talk about a lot, and it's more of like a prayer, but it's don't let my calling exceed my character.
Yeah.
And like, don't let my business exceed what I can handle with my character, you know, with my marriage, with my family. And all that is like going back and looking in the mirror and saying, you're the bottleneck, and like giving that over to the Lord, but also like taking a real responsibility of self-development. And like, how do you invest in yourself? And I love, you know, there's a lot of people that talk about this, you know, and you gave the Jim Rohn quote, but like Alex Hormozy's, his content's big on like, dude, like if you're going to make a bet on anything, make a bet on yourself and your own education. And you know, the reason you don't make $1 million, it's because you're not worth $1 million. Like take that hard look in the mirror and you're responsible for yourself. And I think so many people and so many, you know, business owners, like we want to put the responsibility on, like what you said, the environment, the interest rates, the economy, you know, well, I didn't get taught well, right? Whatever the blame game is. And so really kind of I love that mindset of taking on the responsibility. It's up to you to be relentless. It's up to you to figure it out and to go after it. And I think it's really easy to make excuses, give up. But yeah, no, that's awesome. I love that. So over the years, what habits and principles have had the biggest impact on you building these businesses?
Yeah, and it would go back to kind of how we just teed up this. It is something that you can consistently do every day. And I think so many times, let's say I was extremely overweight. Sometimes we get in the mindset like, oh, I want to lose weight, but I want to lose it in the next 3 months. And it's like, man, you set yourself up for failure for just even saying that. Like you're not gonna do that. More importantly, you're not able to have a habit put in place because that's not even a lifestyle that you can even sustain for a long time. So what is it that you can just consistently do every day? And that takes time. So for as many years as you've been out of the game in going to the gym, for me, let's say there was a time when I didn't put my health in first priority. It took years before I really looked in the mirror and said, now that guy's ready to go fight. And I had to be willing to have it take a year versus go for the quick fix of I want to go get shredded in the next 3 months because I needed it to be habitual. I needed it to be a lifestyle. And so I knew it was going to take time because it had been taking a long time to get the way I was before I started getting fit. And you got to give yourself the same amount of time to get fit so that you can make it habitual. And so one of the things I love that I think puts you ahead of most is what's called what I call just a power hour. I spend an hour a day, and I also let my team have an hour a day on my dollar to become someone better. You're working on personal development. So even so much so I do a Thursday call every single Thursday I have for over 4 years where it's a half-hour call and it's all dedicated to personal development because that is what allows us to have a growth mindset versus a scarcity mindset, like a growth mindset leads us to abundance. And I want a team that actually desires it and wants it. And it's a good sign for me that if they don't no, I don't know if I really want to do that. Great. You're not on my team. Like I need
you're not aligning. Well, yeah, you're not aligning with where we're going.
That's right.
We're growing whether you want to or not. And so, yeah, no, it's a good way for people to kind of weed themselves out too.
And your health is crucial.
Yeah, it's part of having good culture and, you know, communicating that. And what you naturally do is the people you're going to attract anyway. I mean, most of the time. So, I mean, most of the time you're going to be attracting people that want to grow.
Or detracting, right? Which is a great thing.
Right.
Like when people repel from you, you're like, thank you.
Like, yeah, you're like, hey, God bless you. Right. Yeah. God bless you. We're just on different paths right now. Yeah. But no, the health thing is huge. That was a big journey for me over those last, you know, couple years, 2.5, 3 years. You know, after high school, it was like you get so busy with college, and I was doing ministry and trying to survive, and then trying to find a job and trying to figure out how to, you know.
And then the dad bod. When you have 4 kids, you're like, heck with it. Give me another cheeseburger.
Yeah, and so I had a similar experience where I was like, I had something that happened health-wise where I was like, man, I am not healthy. Somehow, I'm in my mid to late 20s, not healthy. I don't know how that happened. And I was
one day at a time.
Am I willing to sacrifice a year of my life of just what I would want, right? What selfish Seth would want, to see if I can get my health back on track. And it was just like, why, do I want to be able to do stuff with my kids when they get older, right? Do I want to do stuff with my grandkids as they have kids? And so it was kind of like, you have to look at the end in mind. And I just was like, I'm going to commit to doing this for a year. I'm going to figure this out. And so, and to your point, after a year, it was like enough habits and enough life change had happened to make it more habitual. And then it was like, oh, okay, now I feel like I have a lifestyle of how to be healthy, how to eat healthy. What are the right foods? What are the right workouts for me? And I lost a bunch of weight, got really healthy, ran some marathons, and it was fun. Like, I loved it. And I was able to bring my family along with that journey and my kids. And so there's so many benefits that go along with that if we can kind of look with the end in mind.
Well, health is hard, Seth. That's the thing. Health is hard. It's so easy to eat outside of our calorie intake. It's so easy. You can sit on the couch and all of a sudden when your body gets bored, something in your brain says, okay, well, if we're bored, then let's eat a lot of food. And so it's easy to fall off track. But if you can maintain health, I am a dead believer. Like if you can take care of that, man, it is easier to build $1 million business than it is to maintain 15% body fat, like all day long. So if you can do that, I'm telling you, it is like one of those things that all of a sudden you're like, you see life different. You see challenges different. You see that you are capable of doing bigger and better things because it really is hard. I get it. Like for those out there, like, oh, it's hard. It was hard for me too. I don't want to sugarcoat that like I'm blessed with genetics. It's not. In fact, it was hard.
Yeah.
And maybe to add to that, one last thing is like, even before me and you got on our podcast today, I was reading just in between while I was waiting for the podcast, and I'm always reading, always. And you got Atomic Habits back here when we're talking about habits.
Love that.
Like, James Clear.
Love that book.
Just how do we always make sure that we're getting 1% better every single day? And you just pound that every single day. And it doesn't take long. Yes, it may take over a year, but by year 2, year 3, you're starting to separate and divide yourself from the masses, and you start to see the fruits of this daily compound of investing in books, investing in mentors that are 5 to 10 years ahead of you. This is all part of my strategy on how I stay at me growing to the next level, but also put myself in like an expert, an elite status, not for the name, not for the title, so that I have massive impact because I'm growing myself. And now anyone that's going to connect with me, I'm going to help them become their best version too, because that's my mission. That's my goal.
Yeah, love that. All right, we're going to jump into our Smaller Pockets segment. So Cody, go ahead and tell us about a deal. You've done a lot. You've done, the insurance stuff, wholesaling stuff. You've started some businesses. Go ahead and tell us about a deal within something in that went wrong. And more importantly, what did you learn from it?
Yeah. Do you want it to be an invest in a business and it went south, or invest in a bad real estate deal and it went bad?
Let's do the business one if you're okay with it. That's more uncommon.
Yeah, I bought into a relationship. I didn't even look at the P&L. I didn't look at anything other than this guy had a track record of like buying businesses, exiting businesses, doing well. And what's really hard for me on this one is I'll save it till the end, what hindsight, but I invested in, he's like, dude, this is the horse. Like I'm putting my own money in here. This is the one. I invest $250,000 into the relationship, not even the business. The business model sucked. It was so bad. I didn't even look at the business model. I didn't even look at the plan. I didn't look at the past 8 months on what they made and what they lost. I didn't look at anything other than this guy's doing it, so let's go do it. 6 months later, my $250,000's gone.
Just like that. Just like that.
Gone. And 2 things were as a result of this. one, the guy had never exited those companies. It was a big old like lie. And I was like, so, but at the end of the day, I signed on the red line. Like at me, I'm the guy that I will look out the window when things go good. I'm also a guy that's willing to look out the window and say, do you know why it's good? Because my team, they're freaking awesome. And when things go bad, I don't look out the window. I look in the mirror and I realize it's bad because I signed on the dotted line. At the end of the day, I did no backup. I did no work. I did nothing other than I bought into a relationship that was a false relationship, and I lost $250,000. And the second thing I learned was I had this thought come to my mind. Call it intuition. Call it, for me, it's God. Like this thought comes to my head. Cody, stay your lane. Like, you're already going to have enough if you just stay your lane. You don't need to invest in other companies. You don't need to invest in crypto. You don't need to invest in this. Stay your lane. You have a blessed lane. Just stay your lane. And so I think it was necessary for me to go lose that, because maybe I would have lost even more had I invested into Bitcoin or this or that or that or this. I think it was like a perfect, humbling, awesome experience for me to go to lose that $250,000. And it perfectly happened for me to just recommit to stay in my lane.
What, out of curiosity, what kind of business was it? Was it like a service business?
They said it was going to be the next Amazon.
Okay. Okay.
And it
lofty
was,
goals.
And it was, lofty. And wait to hear the game plan. They were starting with, with a lot of photography, it's so expensive to have all the cameras and everything. So rent it from this company and then use it for your shoots and stuff and then send it back.
Okay.
And then from there, it'd be like, rent a guitar, because I don't want to own a guitar, but I want a guitar when I go on this trip for the next week, and then I'll send it back. Whatever. That's ultimately where it was going to go. Is basically a big platform that was going to start like Amazon started with books. And
sounds logistically crazy hard, but okay.
Yeah. And then no one wanted cameras.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, dude, they come out with a new camera every 3 months. And so you can't even stay up on the industry. Like, it's impossible.
Yeah.
So anyways, this model was a failure, but that's ultimately what it was.
Man, that's crazy. So so this guy, moral story is do more due diligence.
100%.
Even if you think someone's big time, I know this now from interviewing a bunch of people on the podcast, but like you get these perceptions, and like what you said, people beat their chest when they're in real estate investing. And sometimes it's like they were sitting on a throne of lies, or they didn't even realize they were like about to implode, but they imploded like a year later. And you're like, okay, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And so that is a good hard learned lesson for you in this scenario. But thanks for sharing that with us.
You're welcome.
Next show segment, our little nugget. So Cody, go ahead and give us like a piece of advice for our audience, for our listeners, something that is like pivotal to how you run your business or your life, like specifically.
Yeah, it was getting really crystal clear for the Hofhine household, me and my wife together. Not me. I'm no one without her, by the way. I if you met her, you'd see why. She really is amazing. So we make these decisions together, and how we wanted to run the Hofhine household was we wanted to crystal clear define success. And for most, it could be whatever it could be, just whatever that definition is. For some, it's the home you live in, the car you drive, how much money's in the bank. For us, it was that I would be able to see my wife and my kids more than my team sees me. And so that was just our definition. It didn't need to be a number. It didn't need to be a car, and it didn't need to be a size of a home. And so we just worked towards that. And we just found ways to continue to invest in team so that I could find more time to be with my wife and my kids. And then ultimately it led to these core values. In fact, you'll see them behind me. And so you have honest, hopeful, humble, and heart for others. It's strategic. We have 4 kids. Our last name's Hofhine. All of them start with H, and there's 4 of them. And what if, instead of measuring success by how much money you made or the car you drive or the home you have, what if you measured your success by how loyal you are to your core values? And then so much so that same symbol sits around each one of our family members' neck.
That's cool.
And we're just very intentional, so that at the end of the day, I don't say, oh my gosh, I was successful. I closed a mastermind, or I closed a $50K one-on-one client that wants to work with me. No, I can stand in front of, and there's actually signs in our kitchen of each one of the values. And we did our own definition, me and Wendy, of what those values are, not the world's definition, our definition for each one of these. And I can stand in front of that and say, hey, was I honest today? Was I hopeful today? Did I have a heart for others? And was I humble? Meaning, was I coachable and teachable? And if I can say yes to all 4 of those, which every day, maybe not. Maybe some days I'm like, man, I was really hard on that contractor. I did not show a good heart for others. But I'm able to then line up every night and say, did I win today? And it's not tied to how much money I made that day. It's tied to, was I loyal to my core values? And if so, today was a win.
Yeah. I love that. We don't ask this question on the podcast usually, but what resources do you have for dads out there, families out there that are trying to like really set a strong family culture? It sounds like that's what you've created with that. I mean, even having core values for your family. A lot of people don't even do that. I mean, how have you and your wife, have you looked at any resources to, like, as you've gone on this journey of, like, man, how do we lead our family well? How do we raise our kids well? Any advice you'd give for some dads or young families out there?
Yeah, I'm sure there's a ton of values out there, or people that do teach that. Maybe it was just something that we felt was a void in our life, and so we just spent our date nights. Most date nights maybe go out to dinner and a movie or whatever, right? Our date nights are more than that for me and Wendy. We really do love to just get together and work on, okay, how do we continue to grow this special thing called family?
Yeah.
And so really these are our own models and their own things, their own date nights. But we do host couples events that we go over these specific things, and they're not even expensive, because I don't need to make money off this. I want the world to see what we did and how it's working for us, and for them to implement it in their own lives. So maybe there's a shameless plug for me is, they could definitely reach out to me and see how they can get involved to learn these things that do matter. And
Right.
I'd say my coaching style, my one-on-one style, is more around identity shift than it is the magic marketing or the magic sales pitch or the magic script that's going to make your business grow. It's not that. What I do when I work with people is I help them become the leader that's worthy of what the goal is that they're looking for. And I help them commit to standards that improve them, that if they just commit to the standard, it takes care of the goals. And that's the work I do. And so it's the same stuff here. This is what makes me who I am.
Right. No, that's awesome. Yeah. It takes intentionality to do that. People can wrap their heads around, it takes intentionality to build a business, right? You got to come in, you got to, lead well, you got to, all the things that it takes to build a business. But for some reason, there's such a disconnect in our culture that it takes intentionality to build a great family. And people grow up and their kids all of a sudden don't want to be around them. And they're like, what happened? I was such a great dad. I provided for you this whole time. And you're like, man, family and being a dad is more than providing. It's like
so much more. Do you know John Maxwell?
Yeah.
One of my favorite authors. I sat down with lunch with him in Orlando, and he said something I'll never forget. He says, most people think experience is the mother of all learning. He says they miss a key point. Cody, it's the reflection upon the experiences that's the mother of all learning. He says 80-year-olds have had more experiences than you, Cody, but there's 80-year-olds you don't want to listen to because they haven't taken the time to reflect upon their experiences. And he just said, make sure you end every night reflecting upon the experiences you had that day so that you can go out and make better decisions tomorrow.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, I love that. Well, before we get out of here, how can people follow along with your success, find you? Where should they be looking?
Yeah, a few ways that I could throw out is have my own podcast, The Cody Hofhine Show, and it's based on business principles to help them lead and guide and build a successful business. CodyHofhine.com is my website. And then Instagram is where I stay live. I know when I post, it posts over at Facebook, but I just don't go into Facebook.
Right.
So if you want to connect to me, DM me on Instagram, and it is me that actually will be connecting with you. I don't hire that out, and I don't AI bot that.
Nice. Well, Cody, thank you so much for sharing your life, your business with us. And we really appreciate it.
Seth, thank you. It was an honor, my friend.
As always, excited that you joined us for another episode of the Reinvest Podcast. If you want to learn how you can use your hard-earned capital to diversify into real estate, go to our website, reinvestcapital.us, and shoot us a message. Move farther, reach higher, and grow deeper.